Hello all, we'll just get ourselves settled here, and good morning and welcome to you all. The hardest part of the live stream is waiting for it to go forward and to get your timing right and all those sort of things. I see quite a few of you have joined. It's great to see you coming along there. We're always wondering what's going to get the better of us this time with this technology. I presume you all feel that way. Hello all, we'll just get ourselves settled here. Good morning. I got the volume down here. Okay, the laptop runs at the same time, and we don't want to have double sounds. And as smart as it was, and hanging around so long, still bits that didn't get done. I'm using an internet cable this time, as is Maura, to try and boost up the speed of the internet going out. One of our challenges seems to be that, as smart as I thought I was with my 8 gigabytes of RAM on my computer, being great, but it's not a lot when you go to stream and try and run Photoshop and all sorts of things. So all these things get the better of us. These are these people who are trying to sell all this equipment that all they really want us to do is to buy more and more equipment. Right then, so I'm very proud of you. You're all getting around to the different projects and what is involved. Some things go right and some things go wrong, and some people do it different ways and whatever. That's quite okay. But we'll just go and correct them now. One that not only one, but two, but three, but four people caused a little challenge on this particular time. The specification for the naming of the files starts with your name. And the reason and if there's more than one Pat, you have to put a surname in. More than one Mary, you have to put something else in. And then the information to make it different goes after that, like number one or the ratio or exposure compensation. Who says no sound? Eileen Brosnan has turned down the volume on her laptop, because when we were using it for Skype, she does it on the phone, and the sound. Just put up the sound, and I say you will have it then. Just it's one of these things that get the better of us at times. Is our volume fully down there, Mary? Is it? Yeah, I could hear the volume from that coming through. It's okay. Right, and I think that's what's happened to Eileen. She has a challenge where she uses the phone and the Skype together because there is a problem with one of the bits and pieces on it. Okay, so yes, talking about the numbers. So you start off with Patricia Devlin. You're welcome. I can see and hear Patricia Devlin says, okay, I don't know where Patricia's sending that in on. Is that coming in on yours? She's sending it in on maybe, I don't know, Skype maybe? I don't know. Anyway, Patricia, doesn't matter. And we're very thankful that you were there with us, because you've impressed us yet again. So I was saying about the name. Started with your own name, first name because there's only so few of us, second name if there's more than one Mary or Mary Mac or whatever, Mary O or whatever. Then put in some information about it. Sometimes it's just 1, 2 or 3 depending on the number of images you're putting in. Sometimes it's the information about it, and I always suggest the idea of putting the date in will make each one of them different. The difficulty of that, if you put anything before your own name, as a couple of people did, they called the image 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Well, then I'll end up with 4 or 5 1s, 4 or 5 2s and 3s and 4s or whatever, and they won't run in sequence of the people. It'll run in sequence of the numbers, not the actual people's name. So the idea for the starting with your own name is that when I put them into a folder, they will fall into sequence, and when we see the homework, we see all Mary's comes, Pat's comes or whatever. But if there's 1, 2 or 3 on each one of your image, they all get separated out. It's not the end of the world. I was able to correct it. Those who are sending it straight in from on their phone in through Skype or whatever, we haven't worked out a way of being able to rename the file names at this stage. Patricia is like that, and Pat O'Farrell sometimes is like that, and Declan sometimes is like that. we haven't found a way. So you just put a message beside it somewhere, and I'll pick up on it, and we'll work it out. So that's those ones. I've also very impressed with Patricia again. She impressed us again. She is now sending in her images into us on Skype. And what she has found out is that because she has Skype on the phone and or on her iPad, she's able to just use it as a share. You just share it through Skype as you would through WhatsApp or whatever. And they're all making good progress. It's the question Declan asked me this morning. So Declan, that's how it's done. You just consider the image from the phone to be a share and share it in Skype. That's assuming that you've got Skype on your phone. I notice lots of people have it in two places, both on their phone and on their laptop. They have advantages and disadvantages in both places. So that was that little challenge that we had. Right, okay. Now we will go and we will have a look at the homework. Now I've been very careful here. So it is called ratio. Okay, and we had the homework. I downsized some of these images to try and make it easier to work with, so that it wouldn't be clogging up the computer. But I still like them coming in at full size, because if you're better to be looking at them than be looking for them. All right, so this is what we're going to do. The ratio. That was what we were. So that was what you were asked to do. Not everybody was able to do it because nothing is the same. Every computer is different, every camera is different, everything is different. And I might say something to you and you go driving yourself mad looking for it, only to find out that your camera doesn't have it, or it's called by a different name on your camera, or it's done in a different way. So, Eileen. Is Eileen the only one without sound?
Yeah, everybody else is working well.
Yeah, well, Eileen, try if the sound isn't coming through because it's not turned on your computer. Maybe it's not turned on in the YouTube video. There's a little symbol on the YouTube video that will allow you to bring up the sound as well. It's down there on the bottom at the left hand side, and you can pull that right the way across. Or if it's not that, it is on the on your computer itself, the computer sound itself. But I think we turned down the sound down to 0 on your computer. Well, at least it'll be all picture and sound. Now you know how poor Lady Gallagher copes. All right, and continue poking around there, and you'll eventually get it up and running. I presume the sound is okay for everybody else. I'll have a look here and see. Yeah, the sound is coming out okay. You can see that little arrow down there in the bottom. It's leaving our side anyway, which is the main thing. Okay. I was hearing some funny sound. I didn't know what it was. Okay. Oh, it might be just the laptop. It's not completely down. I'm hearing my own voice. So anyway, as I was saying, 4 is to 3, 3 is to 2, 1 is to 1, or 16 is to 9. A couple of reasons for me to bring you to this particular spot is that it's one of the places that I'm bringing you to get you used to using your equipment, to get you used to finding buttons. It can be very frustrating trying to find these things. And if you can't find them and YouTube is of no good to you, ask somebody else in the group, or else if you want to, and I'm quite willing to, and I've done it for quite a few people. If all else fails and you're not getting to it and you're getting utterly frustrated, just give me a call and we'll sort something out on Skype when we're both free, and we'll be able to go to and sort out where the actual problem is. Because if we don't sort out the problem, we are... Okay, that's what was causing that trouble. I knew it was on the laptop that the sound was coming through a little bit on me, and I was a little bit anxious. So you can, that was my reasoning behind it. And some people may have had trouble with the aspect ratio, and a couple of people did have trouble with it. So we will catch up in our little Skype little individual get together on the ones we do yesterday and the one we do tomorrow with the two particular groups, and the two groups and the 4 groups we can get to it. Sorry? Eileen is up and running. Great, Eileen. It's always challenging, these sort of things. And it's great now that we've got you up and running, because you are now into the picture and know what's going on. We have to just have patience, because we all have these sort of problems. And nobody is any better or any worse than everybody. Everybody's having problems. Don't anybody ever feel embarrassed that they seem to be the only one that isn't getting it and everybody else is getting it. That's not true at all. Ask the question good and early. What I really want people to do is, if they're stuck on something that we've done in the past and we've gone off it and they just don't know how to get to it, let's go back and revisit it, because very often it's that little bit that's missing that's stopping you from understanding the next little bit of the agenda that we are going into. So that's what we started off with, and we had to find it where it was on it. Now, Declan was having challenges and bewilderments and confusion and whatever, and he sent me a screen grab of his phone, right, which is great, because that's a way I can see what that person is looking at. You can also do it on a laptop. You can do a screen grab of a laptop as well. On our next little get-together, when we're in our Skype groups, I will explain to everybody how to do it. Etna does it on a regular basis for us, and it's really a great help, because it kind of lets people see what's going in, what's involved. So anyway, this is Declan's superphone. And when he went to resolution, up on top it said 4:3 at 48 megapixels. Like, that's huge.
Renita said the expert on the photograph is 4:3, the same as 3:4.
Yes, same difference. 4:3 and 3:4. And that is the big challenge, Bernice. Like, in some places they call it one variation, in another place they call it a different one. They are basically run the same. You can see here on the one that we are doing now at present for Declan, that his has the 4:3 and it's got 2 variations, a 48 megapixel, which is huge, and the 12 megapixel, which they recommend. What they're really recommending is the 48 is a very big image one, but if he wants to use it to crop a portion of the 48, will be a very good one to work with. The 1:1 comes at 9 pixels, and look at that really strange one that is down there, 18,6:9. Oh, 18.6:9. All right. Now that's one that nobody else has, but he has, and it goes with that particular phone. And if you look at the shape of this rectangle here, see how long it is compared to its width. And that's 18.6 units, 18 units to 6.9 or 6:9. It's strange, isn't it? We'd have to go and ask Mr. Google what all that is about, right? But that's what it looks like, because on his phone it's a much longer, skinnier one, whereas the 16:9 kind of usually ends off 16. Kind of ends off at about here. So that's what he had, and he has sent me some photographs for his homework, except for it only arrived just before we were to go on air, and I just couldn't. Before I go for the live stream, I have as many things as possible shut down in the background. I normally try to shut down Skype in the background as well, but I don't think I did today for some unknown reason. Anyway, this is the first one coming in from Bonnie, and it's the 4:3 ratio. Okay, it's done in the vertical format, and it uses that ratio very good. Also, getting to know where it sits on the actual camera. Bonnie, 1:1. Some people, when they go to write their numbers, they can write 1:1, or they can put in plus and minus symbols and all these sort of things, and the file name agrees to it. In my case, it just doesn't like those sort of things in it, and it says no can do. And sometimes it doesn't matter whether you put the extension in the JPEG extensions on the end of it or not. Most times it doesn't, but on some occasions it does. So Those nerds and those boys have strange peculiarities about them. That worked perfectly because it's square 1:1. And the next one was 3:2. You can see how much longer it is compared to the 4:3, the previous type one. And then this one was the 4:3 as well. And that comes from Bonnie as well. I'm confused now about the earlier one, what way it was. And people did get confused as they were going through it. And if you got confused and bewildered, you've got the basic idea. You've got the basic idea as to what we are talking about. Now those, we'll talk about the person who cheated later on. And this is Bonnie's perfect 16:9. You see the way it's really long and skinny. It fills the whole, it more or less fills our whole screen there. And if I was to expand that here, see the way it fills up the whole screen for you, right? And as far as the ratio is concerned, and we'll be using that ratio later on in one of the projects that we are doing. So we're going to introduce it to it there. Here comes Etna, and Etna did the perfect example of the 1:1 square. This one is the 3:2. See how long it is compared to its height, but nowhere long as the other one. She used a 3:4 for a vertical. See, it's kind of fatter than what it is taller. And this one is Etna again, 3:4 going the opposite way. And 16:9 going in the vertical, which is really an awkward, funny one to be working with. But an awful lot of kids, an awful lot of people shoot their photographs like that because their camera sits, their phone sits that way, so they're shooting an awful lot of their photographs like that. When they used to have cameras, they never brought it to the vertical, they always had it on the horizontal. So shows you how we can be affected by our surroundings. And this one again is the 16:9 in the long format, right? That was got all perfect. Now Gary the Great had to cheat, and he admitted to it, right? Because it wasn't on his camera. So what he went off and did was he went off cheating, right? And he cheated it in Photoshop or some other process. But he still got to the same place as far as the ratio is concerned, and that's his 1:1, the square ratio. The next one he had 3:2, long and skinny, we'll call it. And then the next one 4:3. See how much more square and compact that one is. And then he went to 16:9. See, you can really see from one of them to the other the huge difference in it. But it wasn't on his camera. Some cameras do. Some cameras have other versions and other peculiarities on it. And this comes in from Irie. And this one was 1:1. Now, I think that this might have been a misprint or a misunderstanding as far as the numbering system. And this happened to a couple of people. You might have thought you were doing 1 by 1 and then they got mixed up in the system. And that does happen. It really does. When you're doing this type of stuff, it can get mixed up. So 1:1 is meant to be square. So that should really have been a square photograph. But it could have been anything. It could have been written down the wrong one, put them in sequence and whatever. But it's all a good exercise. Getting it wrong, because that's in composition-wise is the way you do it. You give the birdie a bit of space to go out of. But when that goes into a square one, you see, it doesn't do that. So this one is square. But it's written down 3:2. So obviously what has happened here is the numbering has got mixed up and confused here. And this one is 4:3. I think that might be the 3:2. Because see the way it is longer. I think just the numbers have got confused here. And this one is 16:9. That didn't get confused because that really hops out at you. So it's so long and narrow. And as I keep on saying, when we are doing slideshows, especially if we want to show to a group or whatever, that is the preferred size to do it because that fills the screen, like as I was showing a few minutes ago. See the way it fills up your full screen. And why do you have a bit of television up there or a screen up there and not be using it? Unless for composition reasons you want to have it square or whatever. This worked for Arian as well, extremely well, up and down, right? And a good use of it, of the format. Mary's put these ones in 1:1. Yeah, got it in 1. This one 3:2. Yeah, got it. Exactly what we're talking about in the ratios. 4:3. See, it's getting a little bit skinnier. Yes, that's making perfectly sense. 16:9 is perfect as well and understood. All right. Because you've learned a couple of things. One, finding it on your camera, say, well, why would I want to ever do a change from one of these? Which one is the best one? Like, which one would I leave it on? My argument is you're going to shoot stuff for slides, 16:9 for slideshows. You can always make the other ones out of the 16:9 as far as cropping is concerned, but there might be more information in a 3:2 image as far as megapixels are concerned, so that will be an agenda. The bigger one you can always make smaller. The smaller one you can't always make bigger, but you can crop it on the side. You know, you keep on playing them around, juggling them around. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. These have come in from Mary. 16:9, which is a brave way of shooting a flower, right? Mary, I don't know, Mary. I'm a bit confused here. Anyway, we'll go by the sizes. 3:2, yeah, got the idea. 1:1, perfect. 4:3, perfect. And these have come in from Mary, Mary Mac. It might have been a second set that's come in, 3:2. I was really impressed with this particular set that came in because I thought it was a nice way of doing the exercise. And these next set of photographs kind of shows this, that, you know, not only did you do the ratios, but you put a little bit of thought into creating creative stuff just from around the actual room. And that was a perfect one of 3:2. Perfect use of 3:2, because if that was in any other ratio, you'd be losing the bottom off it, right? You might have a bit more space around the side in other ratios. But, you know, this I really like. Wasn't that a perfect use of the square format, 1:1? All right. And a lovely, lovely shot taken as well of a still life type shot. Lovely. And then this one was to show 4:3. As a shot. The only thing I would say is, as far as a shot is concerned, I think we just might have needed to top of that in, but let's not be pernickety. Okay, and I thought that was a really good use of 16:9. Goes from the very top to the very bottom. Was the first one 16:9? Did I call that one wrong? Maybe I didn't. Maybe there was two of them in there. This is Pat. Now Pat did this one 1:1. And this is perfect. This is exactly what you're talking about. And he shot it on the phone, and he sent it to me on Skype. And we can't change the file name, so I changed it, I think, myself. I think I did, or did he do it? I can't remember. Maybe he's everything done right and I'm being unfair. I can't remember. So that's that one. 4:3. Pat, no, that's not 4:3. That's 16:9. I think things got confused up here. All right. You can see how long it is compared to the width. I think it's the same as earlier people. I think you might have got the numbering of them confused. I'm only guessing as to what happened. And that is 16:9, but it is in the opposite direction. All right. And in Pat's case, when he was going to it, the question he had, and if people don't ask me these questions, I don't realise that it pops into, when he was doing it on his phone, there's front and rear camera on a phone when you go into the settings, and which is which. Well, I would consider the front one be the one in the front of the camera, and the rear is the one that takes your photograph, does the selfie. Right? And if you're unsure which it is, you know, press the buttons and see which one is which. So that one is what that is, and that all came in perfectly for me. And here comes Patricia again, right? I don't know. Patricia always finds a different twist on nearly everything that we do. And I'm always impressed because I never know what I'm going to get. I know that on her iPad, it doesn't give you a whole lot of choices as to the format, the ratio, okay? So I am suspecting maybe she's found something that I couldn't find, or else what she has done is she's put it into a little piece of software afterwards, and cropped it like what Gary did. All right, and she's cropped it into a square one, and this is a 1:1 ratio. All right, so it's very interesting. I have difficulties with the name. I didn't change her name on her one because I knew I would recognize the name on it. And then this one is also done by her. I think this is a panoramic that she has done of her iPad. Now, what's the ratio here? Is this, it's not 6 by 9, it's like 6 by a lot more. There would be roughly about 6 by 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 or something, which is panoramic, which is kind of like what you see in a cinema. All right, really looks impressive, doesn't it? And if you're doing a slideshow with that, it would be appearing across the screen, something like that, like what you would have a movie effect. Very, very interesting, Patricia. I always like the stuff coming in.
Took it in square.
She took it in square. Oh, yes, Patricia, you did. Yes, because it does allow you to take it in square. And the other one, I presume, she took it in panoramic. And she said what she's done the second one in?
Simple. Yeah, no, it's not there
No,
now.
I'm just having a look to see where we are in relation, where I am and where the messages are coming in. Anyway, well done, Patricia. Now, Susan, I think we have another a panorama one. Excellent, Susan. I'm always impressed with you, particularly impressed with you now that you've figured out how to get it to the into Skype to send it in to me I'm really impressed with that, because we were struggling with that earlier on. Because remember, the new world of photography is all going to be on phone and tablet, and that's the way it's going to be moving around, the majority of it. That's where all our new growth in our organization is going to be, in that particular area. All right. So this one, I think, is a little bit confused. I don't know what has happened, but it is meant to be 1:1, and Susan's has to write down 1:1 because obviously her system won't let her put in the 1 and the symbol and 1, and mine won't either. But that's not square. All right, so that's something has gone astray there. All right, this next one is 16:9. No, we've not got this one right either. This is 3:2, I would say. All right, I would say it's 3:2 rather than 3:4. If it was 16:9, the bottom bit would be missing. Right, it'd be long and skinny. It might be your numbers that got confused on you. This one again is 16:9. I don't think so. I think that's, well, it might be. I think it's a little bit on the wide side. It looks maybe more like 3:2 in the vertical position. All right, maybe you have to look at it closer again to see. And this one is 4:3, which is the same as 3:4, isn't it? Yeah, that looks right. That looks like what its ratio is as well. That one worked right for us. And this one has come in 4:3. Yeah, that is 4:3. That's right. Maybe those other images were ones that you'd put in earlier and you didn't mean to send them to me. I don't know. It could be any of those. So you're all getting your heads around it. I am very impressed. Anybody who's had a little challenge or whatever, Declan has it organised as well. He's done a set for me as well, but I haven't been able to get them up because they just arrived a little bit late to me. All right, but they were there. So it's an interesting predicament. It's something that maybe you know an awful lot more about than what you did in the past. It's by no means the single most important thing that one has to know about in order to be able to take photographs. Now, that is that. Right, okay, a couple of things that I would like to say to you. Right, and that is, let me see, the hierarchy of important settings on your camera. Right, I was thinking about them, and focus lock and very often it goes along with exposure lock, is possibly the single most important thing. I keep on going on and on about this, and I have 90% of you there now, and I want to bring the rest of you along with me for this. When it is on an iPad or on a phone, you tip the screen, and when you tip the screen, it locks the focus and the exposure in that spot. And if it's on a phone or on a tablet, you can move your finger to the side and push it up and down, right? And if it's on an iPad, it will eventually put up AF, and a EL will appear on the screen, right? Because you've got exposure lock and focus lock in at the one time. And you can change the exposure on the iPad to do it, right? On your ordinary camera, it comes with the first half depress of the camera is the camera lock. And if you've got the sounds turned on the camera, it's the first bleep, right? Or if you're looking through the camera, it's the first flashing light you see in the screen, bleep, right? Wherever those little lights flashed on the screen, depending on how many of them there were, so a lot of it worked out automatically and calculated. Once that flashes, wherever it flashes, that is where the camera has decided to focus on. And it will stay focused on that point once you don't lift your finger up. You haven't taken the photograph, you've only gone to the first half of the movement. Bleep. You can bring the camera anywhere else, recompose it, put it in a completely different direction, face it up to the sky, put it down to the ground, do anything you want to with it, and it will remain in the exact same focus. There is something there as well which will allow you to do spot focusing, right? And it will allow you just pick one spot where you can predetermine exactly what you want in focus, right? So that's the whole idea of focus lock. It's that, and then when you go take the photograph, it's the rest of the way down. Some cameras have back focus and all sorts of issues on them, but that's the basic bit is on all cameras and on all phones, and that is important. And then the exposure compensation is very handy for you. Try and get away from using automatic. Automatic sets everything for you, but it is dangerous to start using program unless you understand the settings. Once you understand the settings and set them once in program, you don't really have to worry too much about them again. But if they are way out, they can give you awful trouble. And that was happening to somebody who during the week, and they were saying, I'm going back to automatic because I got more control over it. And then I just encouraged them to stay with the program and sort out the issues that were in program, because program is a much better place to go into. People have discovered that you can't do exposure compensation in automatic. No, because a nerd knows more than you. He's not going to let you do it. Whereas in program, you will be allowed to do it. When you get into shutter priority or aperture priority, your system for going with the plus and minus for the exposure compensation is a great advantage to you in those ones, because you want to have a certain amount of control. Manual gives you control over absolutely everything, but it takes a lot of time. It takes that extra time, and it's not really necessary anymore. It was necessary in the past. It does have its uses, but not to be used all the time. So that was what that was I wanted to talk about. The other thing I wanted to talk about was that in our little subgroups that we have organising, I am trying to encourage everyone to get bookmarkers sorted out. And most people have bookmarkers sorted out on their computers, because I think they're a life-changing experience. Once they are there, you will say to yourself, how did I ever manage to do it? Now, we've done it in most of the groups, and we'll be going through again if you want to ask me again about it. And the two bookmarkers I would like to see people use. One is a bookmarker for the new Anoiga Photographic Group's website, the one we are building and working on. It's very difficult to say to you to go to www because it's a freebie and it's got a strange name to go to. But once you have it on your computer from one of the links we give you for the home page, you can just make a bookmarker of it. I've been doing that with a number of people, because a lot of the stuff will be revolved from the website. If you have difficulty getting to us here, All you have to do is go to the website, and our new website, and on it, on the very first page, in the very top, in a big red mark, I have put up live stream button. You just hit it and it brings you to the live stream page of the Photoshop of YouTube, and you can just go on to the live stream that we are using. It'll also bring you to all the ones from the past as well, so there should be no major challenge in in finding that. And it's also a place where I put all your photographs that we put up, from the best of photographs that we put up, and the vlog is there. And if people would have a look at it, I would love somebody, there's 2 pages at the beginning about us and how you would join the organization and those sort of things. I would love somebody to have a look at them. That's what we've been using for the last millennium on our website, and it needs to be revamped and redone. I would love somebody to come along and reword that and make it look a lot nicer and send it to us, and we can put it into it. And what if a couple of people send their idea of what could be there, we can take the best out of each one and we can put it up, and I think it would make a huge difference to our website. It's one of the ambitions in my life is to get it up and going. I'm not the best at writing out things myself. I do it if I absolutely have to, but there's some people out there who are really, really good at doing it, and get it up there. Even if it's wrong at this stage, at least it's better than what we have. And then once it's up there, we can see what's wrong, we can take people's comments, and we'll be able to work on it. Okay, there's
very much another question. If you want to use a timer, can you use focus lock? If you want to use timer,
can you use if you want, can you use a timer and use focus lock at the one time? I think you want 3 or 4 hands to get all the buttons at the one time. I don't know. That's an interesting one. You can try it, Mary, and see if it'll work. But there's another way around that, Mary, is you can use your focus lock and take your camera out of autofocus and leave it in manual focus, and then you can use it. You don't always have to have autofocus on. Autofocus can be turned on and off. So once you focus it, it's focused, right? Or focus manually, and then you can use the delayed. Remember the old days when we used to actually focus ourselves? So yes, and I've often done that when I'm photographing something that is really awkward to focus. I'll often focus it once and turn off the autofocus, and that's a good way. That's a good question. You can go and experiment with that, and the rest of you can experiment with that as well. That's a good idea. Okay, so that's all of those things covered. Now, do you all want to hear what your next mission, should you decide to take it on, the next one we're going for? Whoops, wrong spot. Right, we always start with the phone and then we go to the camera. Going to do ISO next, right? And run a set. This is a lovely test to run, right? It'd be nice if you had a nice photographic subject for this, but you're not going to be judged on your photographic abilities on this particular project. It's more getting your head around ISO. And I'm introducing another one to you now. If you hadn't got the last one under control or any of the previous ones under control, ask me when we get to your groups, or ring me up or get me on Skype or whatever, and we will work it through. Because if you get each one as we're going through, they will all build, because we are now building into the triangle of exposure, and this is one of the parts of the triangle, the ISO, or the sensitivity of the sensor. It used to be the sensitivity of the film, but it's now the sensitivity of the center of the sensor in the camera, right? And this is on the phone. This is in the Pro section, right? And you got, in this case, you went by mode, and then you had exposure compensation. There's the white balance. We haven't been doing it yet. There's ISO, right? So it lives there. There's the first one in the system, is auto. So that's the spot that mostly lives in. But then you've got 100, 200, 400, 800. It doubles all the way up along the way. So you go in and you find this on your phone if you're doing it on your phone. Patricia, I couldn't see it on the iPad anywhere where these sort of things would be. It might be on your iPhone. I don't know my way around the iPhone. It is on the Samsung phone. It's on quite a few phones in the Pro section. All right. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for ISO. Now, if you've got a camera, an all singing, all dancing camera, it's very often one of these little buttons, and it is usually really easy to find, really easy to get to. An ISO in the Camera International Systems Organization, and this, as used to be called ASA in the past, back in the last millennium, it's the same difference. And this was a photograph that we took on one of our many Glendalough weekends that we were doing, and it was taken at night, and the ISO was very high in it. And see the way it's all kind of fuzzy. That's one of the drawbacks of a high ISO. You can also say we got the photograph. You can also say it's artistic. Sometimes people put that grain. In old days it was called grain. In digital terms, it's called noise. Sometimes put it into it. So that's what it looks like at one extreme. Right, so sensitivity, right? Sometimes it gets called sensitivity. Sometimes it gets called ISO. They keep on calling it by different names and different cameras in different places. And sometimes it's a button and sometimes it's in the menu. And then there's other subsections of this as well, where they will allow you fix the automatic. Not only does it give you automatic, but it gives you automatic within a certain range. And all these variations, the more things they put it in there to put it in to confuse us. So it will be just working with ISO on your camera, and should be coming up. There's two different camera backs showing two different ways of doing it. This I robbed from Davy Mullins from Navan Photographic Club, who we've often had giving us talks. This is one of his slides from his lectures. And this is another one that he did up as well, where he's talking about ISO 12800, really, really high, right? You see the way it goes, right? But, that's because it's gone into that little spot in there. But otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to get that photograph. Now, it has its advantages, and it's important to know how far you can actually go up along the system. So this is my attempts at doing the homework, all right? I don't know if this was actually the best subject for me to do it in, right? Now, if you look at the file name up here, because I called it by its file name 125, that meant it was 125 ISO. The camera was set to 125 ISO. I have it written in there in white. It should be in black, right? So I take the photograph to see how it operates. Now, the best way of doing this, because you're doing a test, is do it on a tripod. Because you're taking that part of the agenda out of it, having to know if the shutter speed is right and all these sort of things. You do it, the ISO, it has to be done in program. The exposure can be worked out in automatic, right? It will work itself out in automatic. You just change the ISO. You're forcing the ISO to be changed, and the camera is working out the rest of it for you. It will do it in program. Best spot, the handiest spot to do it in. I would think it wouldn't do it at all in automatic for you. So that's 125. So when you take your photograph, you do something like that, something with a little bit of detail in it. I don't know if I've got the best. Maybe if it's something there that showed a lot of detail, maybe detail in a window or something, or I only have the trees, which isn't really a great idea. But when I get all your stuff back, I'll be using some of yours for my next class that I give for the perfect example of how to do it properly. Now, you don't have to write 125 on it. You can if you want to. You can do it in Photoshop, or you can do it in Paint. And it's a great way of you being able to look at the image and seeing it. If you're using this system as a part of your file name, you will see it up there. But the whole trick in this is that you go in close into a spot and see how the detail is when you get in close. And in this case, it's quite good, right? You'd expect that with 125 ISO. On tripod would be a better way of doing it. So the next one, this doesn't move on until it gets to the small size. This is the next one I did at 200. All right, you can't see very much between the two of them, but when you go in close, up into the close spot in here, you have a look at the detail there, maybe in the tree, or whatever you can put into that particular spot. I'm trying to get it always within the same spot, trying to get all the levels of brightness and darkness the same. It's challenging. It's an interesting exercise to do. It's not really a photographic composition type one, but it really explains ISO to people and gets you into understanding. If you do it and it ends up a complete flop and you get totally lost at the end of it, still send the stuff in to me. All right, because it's a huge learning curve, and it means that you're starting to get your head around it. This is quite difficult stuff to get your head around. And I guarantee that after you've gone through a number of these different bits and pieces of experiments and doing these tests, you're going to have a eureka moment. You're going to be in Kells, in the school in Kells called Eureka, great name for a school, when it just clicks in your head, oh yeah, that's what it's all about. There's what 200 looks like. That's what 400. See, it's getting a little bit more, not as sharp, it's a bit more fuzzier. And there's 800. Can't see any difference there because maybe it's built in the dark side or whatever. But when you compare it, there is a difference. There's 16. See, it's starting to not be as good, right? There's 32,000, right? Well, not bad, right? And the whole reason for doing this is that we are probably using our cameras at 200 ISO or an automatic, or not paying any attention to it. And as a result of this experiment, we might decide that the majority of the photographs that we take, 400 is more than adequate. You can't see the difference between 400 and 200. Or you might find you can't see the difference between 800 and the newer your camera, the newer the sensor, the newer everything is in the system for you, the better will the quality of the image will be. So it's something that we've never really thought about to decide where it is. So the reasoning in the real world when you go out to take photographs under these conditions, and you're saying to yourself when you get to understand this a little bit more, I'd like a bit more depth of field, or I'd like a faster shutter speed so I won't have shake. You know how far you can push your ISO. Right, and you know what the results are going to be, and because you have your samples here, you have the samples of the images that you took for your test. And you can always put all these test images, even for the aspect ratio and for all these things, put them all into one little folder on in among your photographs. And you can always later on, when you say to yourself, I wonder what was it that I did on that occasion, and you can go back to it and you can see it there. This is the 32,000 ISO. And what's the difference between the two of them? The difference between the two of them was, I took that during the day, and I kept on saying to myself, I must try that, because it was a bright day. I said, I must try that under dull lighting conditions. So I waited till the place was still bright. The lights had started to come on, look, and see it. And it doesn't quite work as well as the previous one. So the amount of light that's there affects it as well. So do each one of them, right, and then do the maximum one, that whichever your highest is. It may or may not be 32,000 ISO. It may or may not be, right? So I did it. So you could leave your tripod set up. I only had it stuck out the window. This was a while, much earlier on in the lockdown than what we are now. So this is the one that I took. I spun around at the same time as I was taking the one out the window, and it was dark inside. And I took it inside at 32. And that's the results I got. And when you put that in to try and brighten it and darken it, it just goes all over the place, and you don't have any detail in the shadows, you don't have anything in the highlights. But it gets your photograph for you, doesn't it? You could shoot that with plus and minus exposure compensation and get a little bit more in the shadow or in the whatever. It's a compromise, a lot of grain coming into it, or noise, and when you go in, you really see it. Look, see it there coming. So it's neither right nor wrong. It's just a statement of fact, right? So that is it. So that is what the homework is, and that's what ISO is about. That's what it is all about. I can't think of anything else to say to you. There's no more questions come in, Mary, has there?
No.
No more questions. Everybody is happy. So you're going to, because you're going to get the kicker is on the way in for the inspection. So you'll get a little bit of an early day off. You have a lot of hard work to go. Anyone who are kind of bewildered and frustrated and whatever, that is normal. I hope Maura's cable that goes from her laptop to her wife to her router has improved things for her. I discovered this after yesterday's one where we had trouble with I was having trouble with the live stream and it wasn't going that well on the Wi-Fi. And I went to the Fountain of All Knowledge YouTube and I looked at a couple of videos there, and they were saying that when you're doing live streams, that as good as Wi-Fi is, it's far better to have it on the cable, on the internet cable. The cable we used to use when we had laptops, not PCs, and it used to be the one going from the router into the computer, and they're probably lying around our houses. They still fit into our laptop, and on the back of the routers there's usually yellow plugs on the back of it, and you stick one into one and one into the other, and the fairies take care of everything else for you. You don't have to be setting anything. And in my case, when I did a speed test on it, it made a huge difference. Okay, wish you all the very best. Thank you for your time and patience. Thank you for watching. Try and encourage some more people to come into it. I still don't know about Pat O'Leary if I've got to him. I know I have Mary Chambers watching in, which is great, and would like to try and encourage other people. You don't have to be on the course or whatever. You can just do the bits and pieces of the live stream. Just watch it if you only want to watch it. Watch it later on if you want to. And send in your homework and we can talk about it. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of getting it up and going. Take care, slán, and goodbye. Until the next time, adios.